All right. I'm live. Let me just test the audio. Okay, I can hear it. It feels good to be back. I really haven't streamed in a while. It's been like, um, I don't know. Things have just been like, do you know the feeling when there's like just a lot of stuff going on and you forget like everything else? Like the responsibilities of life kind of take over. It's just like stupid stuff. It's just nothing that's like actually important, but it's just frustrating. And then the moments that like I do have free time, I'm like, damn it, I like this book, I want to read. Or I'd rather just film a video and not go live. I don't know. We'll play it by ear. I got to get adjusted to this new schedule. I have to, in some way find how to like make it more consistent, how to be able to stream more often, even if it's just like an hour, even if it's just like hour and a half, just trying to, um, you know, get that consistency in because I mean, it's like anything. Like, if I don't make a video every X amount of days, you just get taken out of the algorithm. It's just how it is. So I'm assuming it's similar, if not more important for stream. Yeah. Still waiting for people to get the notification. Um, I don't know how many people watch these things play back. If you do, leave a comment just so that I know that like I should fill the dead air. If nobody does it, I won't even try. Yeah, I don't know. This is fun. Even if I just talk to myself, it's still fun. But yeah, see how this goes. I'm like kind of scared because there's like a real chance I like injure myself today. Um, my left knee is like kind of messed up. I have like a torn meniscus in it, and uh, my other knee feels the same way my left knee did before I tore it. So it's an awesome thing to say. It's an awesome thing to experience. You gotta love it, right? Just as I'm feeling like I'm getting the back in the swing of things, I gotta worry about that. So it's like life just is so ironic sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, yeah, I feel like things are going right. Oh yeah, here's another hiccup. Oh yeah, here's this. I mean, that's what makes life fun though. What's the point of, you know, enjoying every moment of your life? I think as Jordan Peterson said, what crazy person wants to be happy every day? I think that'll go down as his best quote, I want to say. That's probably when he's remembered. Isn't that weird though to think like, I mean, I guess he's kind of memed now. When he first came out, he was much more impactful, but like, isn't that kind of weird to think that one day people will look back and be like, yeah, Jordan Peterson, this great figure. Because like, who else in this generation is going to be remembered as like a philosopher, as like a intellectual? I can't really name any. Maybe I don't know how old Bertrand Russell is. He already is, but Richard Dawkins maybe. But aside from that, I don't know who else is going to be like looked to as the likes of like Nietzsche or Jung or any sort of like I don't know academically speaking or even philosophically speaking who's going to be like looked at as an intelligent person. Maybe we're just in the dark ages of intelligence, you know. But yeah, I'll start reacting in a second. Yeah, life's been pretty good recently. The book I just finished. I'll just go through a few things that I'm going to read before we start going through the videos. Is The Intelligent Investor. I just filmed the video on it. It's going to be out tomorrow unless I film something after this or I film something in the morning, which is it's probably not going to happen. Um, Sometimes I get creative inspiration, but if anything, if I get a flush of creativity, I'm just going to write. But this book is probably the best investing book I've ever read. I've read so many. I've gone into so many different resources when it comes to investing. Like they all kind of say the same thing, except this one. This one takes a more practical approach. It talks about the quote unquote intelligent investor who's just someone that isn't willing to risk losing money. And it's a really good outlook because unless you're going to invest a lot of time into your financial education, it's probably not going to be worth it for you to try to beat the market, for you to try to beat these institutional investors. It might just be easier for you to just, invest in the S&P 500, invest in mutual funds, index funds, stuff like that. But if you're really going to take your time and you're going to actually do it, he gives strategies in this. It looks very long, but there's a lot of charts. And yeah, overall, it's just an interesting book. I never thought I'd be able to say that about a finance book, but yeah, it is pretty interesting. Oh, I gotta send a text real quick for someone. All right, now we can get into React. Wait, no, I gotta change the screen. Share this screen grab. It's like it just shows the wrong thing. I don't have anything open on my computer, but like now I'm mortified because I didn't check. Not that there would be anything like that, but still. All right, how's that look? Where's my Streamlabs? Okay, looks fine. And gotta find a way to. Where's the chat? So when people start chatting. Notice how I said when. No one's done it yet. It's fine. I'll just watch a Kafka video alone. Oh, I just stopped audio.
I am free and that's why I am lost. Hi everyone, in this video I'll talk about one of the most influential fiction writers of the 20th century, Franz.
If anyone is new to the channel, or if anyone's in here right now, this is one of my favorite authors of all time. Kafka is very, very interesting. I'm not sure if this is going to be about his writings or his life, but they're both fairly interesting.
Kafka's name alone has become a literary style called Kafkaesque. He wrote about human nightmares, a state of paralysis when your legs and arms fail you. Kafka's is a story of failure.
That's a terrible, terrible overview of Kafka. If I were to describe Kafka in a few sentences, his style is things are terrible and they continue to get worse in a way that is unimaginable. That's like how you explain Kafka. And like think of a normal narrative, think of a normal story. It's so different when you read Kafka because you can kind of predict what's going to happen, but it's always something out of left field and it always just progressively gets worse and worse and worse. And it's almost like hilarious. It's almost like a ironic sense of like fate, like what even is this? How could this happen? Like this doesn't make any sense, but it just keeps you so engaged. I mean, if you haven't read any Kafka, the one thing you should probably read first is the Metamorphosis. I've someone told me they didn't like it. I don't know how you don't like it. It's a great story. Um, but that's probably the easiest thing to get into. Then the trial is definitely his best work. People will talk about what it's America, and then what's his other novel? It's I literally just read this, The Castle. I didn't really like The Castle. America was kind of entertaining, but The Trial is really his best work. I'm through the process of reading his short stories as well right now, but yeah.
A beautiful failure. Before I start, I have a confession. I always thought Kafka was a complainer, constantly whining how terrible the world is without offering any solutions. A prophet of doom.
What's wrong with that?
But then I read all his novels and short stories. How wrong I was about Kafka. In this video, I'll do 3 things.
Kafka was like a big influence for Camus, if you know what that is. It's almost absurdist existentialist uh, literature outlook. I mean, it's very weird to. I mean, you see the world wars and you see like almost like a pessimistic, nihilistic worldview that comes out of this. I mean, it's interesting to see the context and then see what's going on in terms of the intellectual thought.
First, I'll look at Kafka's life, then summarize and discuss 6 of his most famous stories, and finally 10 lessons we can learn from him. I have looked at
Tell me you make like a 10 takeaways, like you're just doing something for the algorithm. It's so to me how most of YouTube is driven off of like lists. Like there's entire channels that are dedicated to top 10 lists, like Watch Mojo, most amazing top 10 most amazing things or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. But like, bro, that's the shit I listen to when I'm falling asleep. That's not the shit I want to like react to. It changes a bit. If we got time, we'll go back.
Easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude.
Before we go on, I want to analyze that quote. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. What he's saying here is, in spite of everything around you, you remain yourself. If you really want to understand the issues with society, it's the the dissolving of the self. When individuals cease to become themselves and become a collective, this is where individual happiness suffers. Because, I mean, we always talk about the greater good. We talk about we do things for the good of other people, but whenever we talk about collectivism, whenever we talk about any sort of ideology that puts the society first, there's something to be said about like what it takes away from individual happiness. And it's very interesting to see Emerson like hit at the home of this in this quote. So like if you want to read great quotes, just look up Emerson quotes because they'll teach you all you need to know about life. What's up, chat boys? Or chat boy? How's everything tonight? You good, man?
Self reliance, of the type alluded to by Ralph Waldo Emerson in the passage just quoted, is not a capacity we are born with, rather, it is one which must be cultivated. In our childhood, it exists as a dormant seed, but as we mature into adolescence, the first root.
This is similar to Osho's idea as well. Osho believed that you were born whole and made fractured. Um, Jung believed this as well. Jung believed like throughout our lives we get more and more unconscious trauma, more and more unconscious motivations and things driving us in different directions. And if you don't deal with it, it eventually comes back to like ruin you.
Roots of it take hold. Whether the potential for self reliance flowers or withers depends on the individual, but sadly, in the modern world, there are many forces impeding its development. The virtue in most request is conformity, self reliance is its aversion.
I think this idea is probably more important today than it ever has been. Think of how easily people want to classify themselves. Think about how fast people want to say, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm a libertarian, I'm a socialist, I'm this, I'm that. Like it's uh it's very weird because to belong to any ideology, you have to sacrifice your belief somewhere. You know, whether it's just the most minuscule thing, like you have to sacrifice a part of your belief system, a part of your ideas, and in doing that, you like create a gap somewhere, and this gap becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger the more you ignore it. I'm good in my car doing work and reading, came across your video. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Power versus Force. What's that about? Oh my God, I can't spell. Going on the cumulative wisdom of apply keeping knowledge and oh, okay. It's similar to this is a book I'm not reading it, I'm just listening to an audiobook. I think this is a good book to listen to an audiobook, just the way it is structured. And I think it's similar to that. Tell me if I'm wrong. That's what it seems similar to. Is that something I should pick up, you think? I'll add it to a list. But the thing is, right now I have so many books that I haven't read that I need to read them before I buy anything else because it's like it's getting bad. Like I don't know if it's an obsession. I don't know if it's just like I like just seeing different titles and being like, I can't wait to read this. But like the more books I buy, the less likely I am to read whatever it is. Like, there's so many things I've been telling myself I'm going to read forever. I have Walden. I've been carrying that around for like 2 weeks in my backpack. I have Thus Spoke Zarathustra. I think that's how you say it. I haven't read it yet. I've like carried it around so many times. I've held the book so many times. It's so frustrating. It's like I almost have too much selection. I don't know if that's like ever really been a problem for me, but like right now it is. I can't like because I know I'm gonna be like, all right, I have to devote myself to this kind of idea for a few days, however long it takes me to read it. And sometimes I'm like, I want to, I don't know. It might just be a me problem. It's about conscious and how different people think. That's interesting. Is it what is it like a spiritual thing or is it like science based? I think there's like interesting arguments in both sides of those.
In this video, we will examine why self-reliance is such an underdeveloped capacity. If there is one social institution most to blame for the lack of self-reliant individuals, the modern schooling system would be a prime candidate.
Glad glad I'm not the only one that like has too many things to read. There's like I put everything I want to read on my desk and there's it's so bad. Like I don't know. One of these days I have to like I'm gonna like make a stack and I'm gonna like I have to read them in this order. And I feel like if I do that, maybe I'll stick to something. But again, like someone tells me to read a book and I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. It's so bad. It's almost worse. I have a channel now because people will suggest me books to read. And if I hear the same one over and over again, I'm like, damn, this must be a really fucking good book. And I'll like go pick it up. So
Spending well over a decade of our most formative years in this institution, we are not encouraged to develop autonomy, but instead trained in the art of obedience. We are not taught to explore, criticize, question, and play with.
the saddest thing about the school system is like there's no creative element to it. There's no such thing as like, okay, we learn these principles. How can we apply this in the context of art world? How can we do this? Like, I mean, you have art, but it's just like make this stupid thing, make this stupid thing. Like, you're not even given the creative freedom to explore the idea of art, the idea of expression, which is just if you wanted to like cultivate the arts, like it can't be like a generic like make this thing with noodles, do this. Like it's so frustrating to me. Like the idea that the more money we spend on education, the worse the literacy rates become. Clearly, something's not working. Like if you look at the statistics, I'm not one to like buy in 1,000, 1,000,000% into statistics. I think that's a bad way to live your life. But it's pretty hard to overcome the idea that the schools in America that get the most funding have the worst literacy rates. Like clearly, there's something wrong. Clearly, people were not designed to sit still for 8 hours a day and just absorb what's in front of them. Clearly, we could do something that would be more inspiring. And it is really sad because the acquisition of knowledge is the thing that's going to set you free. If you read enough books, if you have enough information, like I don't care what it is, you could figure out a way. But it's simply just cultivating your mind and filling your brain with higher level thinking, higher levels of consciousness. I mean, if you even look to the old mystery schools, that's all they were trying to do, elevate your consciousness. And reading is just a brute force way to do that. If you just absorb enough information, even if you don't retain it, it's going to begin reshaping your mind. Emerson said, we're talking about Emerson right now, but Emerson said, I don't know the books that I've read in my life, but they have made me. What that's basically saying is like he doesn't even remember some of the stuff he's learned, but it's gone to shape his unconscious. It's gone to shape his mind and his deeper motivations and inspired him to become possibly the greatest American mind to ever live. What is this video? I don't know, man.
With ideas, but memorize and regurgitate the dogmas of the day. This indoctrination leads many down a lifelong path of dependency and servitude and impedes the progress of even the most promising young minds. Our mind moves only on faith, wrote the 16th century French philosopher Michel de Montaigne, being shackled and constrained to what is desired by someone else's ideas, a slave and captive under the authority of teaching. We have been so subjected to leading reins that we take no free steps on our own. Our vigor and liberty are extinct.
It's a very good quote. Being shackled and constrained to what is desired by someone else's ideas, a slave captive under the authority of teaching. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to have some things taught to you, like granted history is, I mean, it's not the most important thing, but like a baseline level of history. I think you need to be taught the basics of grammar, the basics of English, but I think there needs to be much more freedom when it comes to the exploration because I'm telling you, there's a lot of kids that go in and out of the school system that are very talented, very intelligent, but they don't align with the pure monotony. They don't align with the pure just robotic sense of like you must do this, you must do this. This assignment is very important. If you don't do this, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that. Like, oh, if you can't pay attention in my class and because of that you get bad grades on this exam, you're stupid. Like it's a very narrow sighted way of doing things. And I get you have to standardize stuff in a certain way, but I just think like for all the amount of stress politicians put on education, it's just the only thing they do is just be like, okay, well, we have this standardized test that, oh, it captures this percentile of how smart this person is. But like, I don't know, man. It's really getting around the actual emphasis on loving what you're learning, finding something that's inspiring to you and chasing that. Like imagine if instead of reading all these nonsense books in history, we read something like Emerson, we read something like Walden, we read something, that's actually applicable to your life, that actually inspires you, that actually gets you thinking in a higher way. Like what would happen? I think the world would be such a better place. And maybe there's an argument that like this is intentional, but I also think like the people in administration themselves, they don't get this. It's not clicking with them. They don't understand that they're making more and more robotic people and more unhappy people because what's the point of going through life like a robot? Like you're given emotions for a reason. You're meant to express them, but you're set to sit there and not feel bored. If you fall asleep because you're bored, you get in trouble. If you start making noise because you're bored, you get in trouble. It's very weird that we almost try to take the humanity out of people and then expect them to thrive, expect them to become successful, expect them to just sit here and want to absorb more and more and more and more of it. But that's just
Most never outgrow the influence of their schooling, rather, they remain submissive to the demands of others in various subtle ways. For example, they never stray far from the belief system imposed on them by the schooling system, nor their family, peer group, religious sect, the media, or the
there's a book I did a review on. I think it's called Weapons of Mass Instruction, and it was basically saying that the reason the school system is inadequate is because basically it's to promote nationalism, to promote good workers. It's not to promote ingenuity. And this is the issue with state-funded education. You can see there's a clear difference between some private schools and some state schools. Like a lot of private schools have much more emphasis on creativity and it does produce a lot of great work, a lot of great individuals, but it's very unfortunate that the masses of the people cannot get this same sort of information. I mean, it even takes you back to Socrates or Plato or Aristotle or any of these people. They were not necessarily, I mean, Aristotle was more focused on facts, but Plato, Socrates, they were more interested in the interpretations. They weren't necessarily as interested in, you know, being set in stone, being something. It was the deeper meaning. It was, well, in this context, what does this mean? In this context, what does this mean? It's like asking questions to get to the core of things. It's very inspiring when you have, that kind of mind when you operate in that kind of way, but it becomes very dull when you're told this is the only way forward. This is the only thing. It's weird.
government, and thus perceive reality through a worldview that is not their own. As a result of ignorance, laziness, and cowardice, they prefer the certitude of psychological chains over the ambiguity and tension of freedom. Even when they have their own opinion, they don't voice it in the presence of others, but out of a fear of ridicule, keep it to themselves. Their desire for acceptance and the respect of others far outweighs their commitment to the truth and hunger to speak their mind. This timidity and refusal to speak what they feel to be true stunts the development of their mind and renders their character weak and scattered. Well, most men, wrote Emerson, have
That was a pretty good explanation of things. Just to pause it real quick.
bound their eyes with one or another handkerchief and attached themselves to one of these communities of opinion. This conformity makes them not false in a few particulars, authors of a few lies, but false in all particulars. Their every truth is not quite true. Their two is not the real two, their four not the real four, so that every word they say chagrins us, and we know not where to begin to set them right.
Okay, so what he was saying there was something along the lines of like, when have you talked to someone and you realize that it's really not their opinion? Like, have you ever been talking to someone and you've watched the exact same video, you've watched the exact same newscaster say something, and you hear that person parrot it word for word as if it's their own opinion? That's what most of us have been subjected to. That's what most of us have, become. Like, there's very little original thought. People are very, very rarely tying things together, picking and pulling what they like about certain ideas, what they don't like about certain ideas, evaluating the argument themselves. Like, if someone sees Tucker Carlson say something, generally that's their opinion for the rest of their lives. And it's very sad to me that this is the state of things. And we have two opinions that are accepted, and if you're anywhere in the middle, you're who are you? You're a fence sitter, you're this, you're that. Like, no, I just want to be my own person. Like, I want to be able to evaluate the ideas for myself, and I want to be able to express them myself. Like, any sort of conformity I see in my life is like I'm really trying to get away from it. It's very hard because it's not the popular thing to do. Like, if I came on here and just said like, yeah, I'm a trad con, I'm this, I'm that, like, oh, you have to get married, you have to wait till marriage, you have to do all these things. Like, do you know how many views I would get? It'd be the same thing if I did it the other side, but like, I morally speaking, I lean more conservative simply just because I believe in smaller government, I'm more libertarian. But like, again, I don't really define myself, but like, if I went online and said these things, you know how many views it would get? You know how popular it would get? But like I try to see every side. I try to see the arguments. I try to see the right, the wrong, everything going on. And because of that, I feel like I can't just be like hashtag Dragon, hashtag this. Like, it's very weird that we live in a world where information is free, where ideas aren't accepted. You know what I mean? Like, I like to form my own opinions. I like to form the opinions from smarter individuals, from people that inspire me to be better. And we don't really live in that day and age. We don't really live in the day and age of nuance. And it's quite unfortunate because we talk about honest political discussions. We talk about reaching across the aisle, but none of this is ever done. It all develops into emotion. It all develops into ad hominem attacks, trying to assume I believe something because I look a certain way. Assume I believe something because one of my other opinions matches this. It's very, very, very interesting, and I really hope that people start to realize this, because when you can break down your own opinions and you can see the other person's perspective, this is when you can, at the very least, strengthen your own argument. And at the very least, we can, see that the other side or the other person or the other individual, like, they're coming from a genuine place, and it makes you respect them much, much more.
One who is self-reliant, in contrast, values intellectual independence and is tortured more by the smallest strings than others are by chains. They liberate themselves from the beliefs imposed on them and use their critical capacities to forge a worldview they can call their own. I must create a system, wrote William Blake, or be enslaved by another man's. Believing, with Emerson, that truth is handsomer than the affection of love, they are
Yeah. That's a pretty good quote. Like I said earlier, Emerson's quotes are up there among the likes of anyone. Um, it may just be me, it just may be biased because Emerson perhaps is the fiercest supporter of individualism, but to me they really speak. To me, they really say something noteworthy. They really say that, like, you know what, it may not be popular, it may not get a lot of attention. People might not realistically, you know, enjoy you as much as if you conformed, but conformity is the only way to pure happiness.
Are unafraid of the insults and contempt their opinions may incite, and undeterred by the standards of social and political correctness, which keep most confined to a narrow range of belief and opinion. A man is to carry himself in the presence of all opposition. I ought to go upright and vital, and speak the rude truth in all ways. Your goodness must have some edge to it, else it is none.
Your goodness must have some edge to it, else it is none. Think of people that are quote unquote the nice guy, the people that are always nice no matter what. Like, does it mean something when they compliment you? Does it mean something when they're like, you're the best, you're this, oh, you're such a nice, like, no. It means something when you're honest. It means something when you take the good and the bad, when you are able to recognize someone's flaws and tell them about it and be upright with them versus just purely praising them. It's very, very sad. And if you look at the psychology of the people with that are just happy-go-lucky, super nice. Oh, I wouldn't hurt a fly. I'm so nice. I'm so perfect. I'm this. I'm that. Like when you look at these people are the usually some of the darker people. They're very passive aggressive. They're very judgy. They're very standoffish in a way that might not be picked up in normal conversation, but if you look at their deeper motivations, if you look at the things going on inside their head, it's usually as like a quid pro quo. It's like, well, I'll be nice to this person likes me, so they get me in this circle, so they do this, so they do like, you know what I mean? It's not really a genuine thing. Like, I'd much rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not. And I think if you can adapt this mindset, you're on a real path to a very good life.
For most of human history, our ancestors relied on maintaining homogeneity in belief and behavior to ensure all were tied to a common purpose and thus able to work together to survive in often harsh environments. Individuals could only stray so far from the accepted tribal paradigms without threatening in-group harmony, and those who did not toe the line were often.
That's not really true. Um, a lot of the so a lot of the older tribes, they conformed from a sense of connection, a sense of love. The older tribes, their attention spans weren't destroyed. They had a much deeper spiritual connection, so they understood the connection between all individuals, and they accepted each other's quirks. They accepted each other's flaws. They truly loved each other at another level we can't really perceive, we can't really understand. Um, and they did things for the benefit of others, not because they had to, but because they wanted to, because they wanted to see a great world for their children to grow up in. And I think we can view older civilizations in a context of they were barbaric, they were this, they were that, but like there are certain elements to what they experienced, to what they lived that were much better than our current days. You know what I mean? Like the idea of suicide, I really shouldn't say that. The idea of stuff like that in the context of a hunter-gatherer society wouldn't even make sense. Like, why would you fight so hard your entire life to get food, to get shelter, to do all these things, protect your tribe, do all of these other, labors, things, start farming, whether we talk about agricultural societies, like why would you do all of these things just to do that? Why would you work so hard? Like there was a meaning and a purpose to life that we don't really have now because we're not really forced to experience what would happen if we didn't have these luxuries, if we didn't have food in our fridge. You know what I mean? Like what's the point of living if I already have everything? And that's really some of the deeper and darker psychology of this stuff. Like once we have the basic fulfillment of life, like what else is there? I think that's a big issue that's not really grasped by a lot of people. Um, there's a reason people are depressed. It's because they're not driving to something bigger. There's no goal. There's no purpose. They don't have to fight to live, and that fundamental aspect of us that wants to be fulfilled is always going to be in the back of your mind. Wow, Eddie, I can't believe you.
Often
It's
punished with
crazy.
ostracism, exile, or death. In other words, for most of our history, self-reliance was viewed not as an ideal to strive for, but as a curse to avoid. But during the longest period of the human past, wrote Nietzsche, nothing was more terrible than to feel that one stood by oneself, to be alone, to experience things by oneself, neither to obey nor to rule, to be an individual. That was not a pleasure but a punishment. one was sentenced to individuality. Freedom of thought was considered discomfort itself. In the modern day, far removed from the living conditions our ancestors were forced to endure, this sentiment lives on. Most today not only
I think a lot of Nietzsche's criticisms are good, but I don't. It's like anything. You can find flaws in everything. I mean, one of Nietzsche's most famous books is Beyond Good and Evil, and he points flaws in every single philosopher's philosophy. But then again, Nietzsche saw a man beat his horse and then went into a depression for 11 years and eventually died and never recovered. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was a deeply flawed man. So there are some aspects of his more nihilistic views that bleed into his philosophy. Some things he wasn't resolving with himself that comes into his ideas. And I think overall, like, he is a great pushback to almost the pure optimism that was seen in certain ideologies, certain belief systems, certain institutions. I think it's a necessary evil.
only spend their life within the safe confines of the status quo, but also chastise all who show signs of deviation from the norm. Therefore, those who choose to proceed upon the path of self-reliance must be prepared to endure hardship. Yet if able to persevere despite the struggle, one will eventually be able to discard the deep human need to obey and conform, and in the process, attain the highest form of health there is. The individual, wrote Rudyard Kipling,
So we put its paper out here. We'll go to another video. Good. It's just if you're gonna do a video on Emerson, why are you citing Nietzsche? Why are you citing anyone else except Emerson? I think Emerson had one of the greatest belief systems, like a complete belief system, than anyone else. You can't really pick a flaw in transcendentalism, but you can pick a flaw in existentialism. You can pick a flaw in most other belief systems, absurdism as well. Like, basically every single belief system aside from the reliance on self has something wrong with it. But I don't know. Maybe I have to make one of these videos on Emerson. Maybe I have to analyze all of his beliefs and get it highly edited and do all these things because I think that would be, I don't know. I think these people do a good job, but they don't quite uh, encapsulate all the beliefs. They take a very surface level where it's much deeper. I mean, Emerson even was his ideology was even close to Taoism or Taoism. But I don't remember which one is the proper way to call it now, but it's also very similar to Buddhism, very similar to Spinoza. I mean, you really look at Emerson, if he did that himself, if he didn't read any of these other holy books or philosophy systems, it's just so impressive.
We have three types of stress that we process in the physical body. We have physical
So this is Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think that's how you say it. I'm listening to one of his audiobooks right now. It's very good. It's called Becoming Supernatural. I will have a video out for that within a few days, probably. Really, just when I finish it, I'm like slowly enjoying it. But tremendous book. But this guy's about to say a lot of really good things.
stress, that's like trauma, accidents, injuries, falls. And then you have chemical stress like toxins or pesticides or pollutants or viruses or bacteria or hangovers or nutritional deficiencies. And then you have emotional stress, right? And emotional stress could be family tragedies, car accidents, second mortgages, single parenting, 401ks, whatever that is. But each one of those things, physical, chemical, or emotional, knock the body out of homeostasis, out of regulation, out of balance.
He has, I don't know if he's about to say it, but in his book, he said something that really stuck with me. And it was something along the lines of like, the reason why you're always stressed is because you're addicted to stress. Like, no matter how much you meditate, I mean, I meditate 3, 4 times a day. I balance my chakras, I really calm myself down before I go to bed. All of these things, like I do all these things just, it's not even because I have to, it's because I want to, because I like the feelings that they give me. I like the state of being in the present moment. But like the reason why I shift out of it, the reason why like seemingly everything goes right and you shift back into that stressful state. You're like, well, what if this goes wrong? What if this, like, when you're extremely happy and the next second you're stressed out, it's because you're addicted to stress. It's because you've been living off these hormones of these responses for so long in your life that that's the only thing you know. That's the only thing that your body wants to keep coming back to because it's used to it. And I think that's one of the greatest ideas he had. And I'm slowly starting to notice it. And I'm slowly starting to be like, you're stressed out because you want to be stressed out. You're stressed out because you're used to it, because you've done it your entire life. And it's very, very inspiring. And this idea has really helped me a lot the past few weeks. I wish I could say I've done it for longer, but I really haven't.
Innate capacity of the body when it's not overstressed is that it wants to always return back and regulate. It wants to return back to homeostasis. It wants to return back to order. And that's innate in us. That's an automatic process that's running through the autonomic nervous system. So we could say the job of the autonomic nervous system is to create balance.
These ideas have a great connection to creativity as well. Think of think of when you're performing and you don't worry about anything else. You almost seem to lose yourself in the moment. This is you acting without thought. This is you acting in the moment, acting in the present. But the moment you start to worry about how bright the lights are, the moment you start to realize how scary the task that you're doing is, what could happen if you fail, this is when you start to get in your own head and start to second guess yourself, and your performance suffers. It's very similar with any type of creative endeavor. And I mean, this is why the idea of like you're stuck on a project and you go for a walk or for 10 minutes, or you go do the dishes, you go take a shower and you come back to it. Your mind was off of it and your mind allowed itself to get back on task and be more creative. I dropped an Eminem quote. I didn't. I don't like Eminem. Dude, Eminem made all of his money off of being against the system, and now he's shilling for the Democratic Party. Like, bro, talk about irony. I mean, I get having a political stance, I get believing in something, but you can't make your entire image fuck the system and then advocate for the system, because Democrat, Republican, bro, no change is happening. No change is happening. It may be campaigned on, but the status quo is going to be the status quo. And it's baffling to me that, like, you can't build an image off that and just accept money from them to be like, oh, this is the, no, fuck Eminem. That's my quote. I don't care. Sue me, Eminem. Fuck you. Like, I don't, I, dude, I used to love his music growing up. I was like, yeah, this guy knows what it's about. And now he's just, bro, like, I don't know. I usually can detach the artist from the art, but like when when a singer, a songwriter, when someone starts advocating for political candidates, I think it loses it. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not even like a balanced opinion. It's not like, wow, there's great people on both sides. Like, it's the, wow, half the country is idiots. It's like, no, maybe you think their political opinion's wrong, but that doesn't mean they're dumb. Lots of smart people believed a lot of dumb things. Like, look throughout history. Do you know anything about Sir Isaac Newton, the guy that invented calculus, the guy that invented physics? Do you know what he also did? He put fucking mercury in his hair. Okay? A lot of very smart people believe a lot of very dumb things. Okay? Like, I don't know why we're so high and mighty. Like, what has he done to contribute to society? Maybe he has foundations, maybe he has this. But like, he made his career on his beliefs on the government, not fuck the system. How is that not fuck the system? I like, dude, he literally said he doesn't like Dick Cheney, and he's on stage. Like, he's supporting the same candidate that Dick Cheney is. It's just so ironic. You get what I'm saying, though? It's just like, I'm not saying don't like him. It's just like my way of viewing things. Like, not like, I don't have any sort of pull. I don't have any sort of like say on these things. Like, if I endorse a candidate, it doesn't mean anything, but like, I still would never do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you should tie yourself to a political party, especially if you're trying to be creative, because I mean, systems and structures, they're just the destruction of creativity. That's all it is. It's conformity. It's left versus right. And meanwhile, there's 1,000 spaces in the middle. So I don't know. I just hate systems. That might just be me though. I like to focus on the individual. I like to focus on self.
balance and regulation and homeostasis, and it's automatic. And that part of the brain sits under the thinking neocortex, and it's called the chemical brain, or the emotional brain, or the limbic brain, or the mammalian brain. And it has all of those functions that make blood sugar balance, hormone levels, digestive enzymes. It's doing what it can to take the body and constantly repair it and regenerate it, and move it back into balance. All of those stressors knock the brain and body out of balance, and the innate mechanism, the stress response, brings it back to balance. Well, it just makes sense. If you keep knocking it out of balance over and over again, and you keep moving it out of homeostasis, that imbalance is going to
Eddie's
become the
this
new
you right
balance,
now.
and now you're headed for disease because that automatic system can't regulate order in the body.
This is so true though. Anyone that doesn't understand the mind's effect on stress and then stress's effect on the development of disease really should embrace this idea because I mean think of think of the idea of urgency. Think of the idea of like when you have no work, you start checking your emails, you start doing all these things, and we unnecessarily stress ourselves out because we've been told that we have to stay busy. We've been told we can't relax because one day we will die. But it's like, yeah, you're gonna die one day, but like, why make it sooner? Why force yourself to grind yourself down to a pulp so that you die way, way, way before you really should. I mean, you see this with a lot of um, people that are retiring. Like their entire lives, they were working. Their entire lives, they were working, 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 and then within a few years, they just pass away. And it's very sad because you worked your whole life to not enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like you pushed off all of your happiness to the end, and then in the end, you didn't know how to deal with not being able to work, not being able to relax, and then poof, like it's very sad to me. I don't know. I might just be myself in this type of perspective. I feel like I've read too much Osho, too much Alan Watts. I've meditated way too much to believe in a sense of urgency, believe in a sense of I have to do this, I have to do that. Like I just want to be happy day in, day out. That's really it. That's I know it's pretty simplistic, but like I'd rather be unsuccessful, loving every day of my life than being the most successful person and not having new front shot for 2020. No, I didn't. Bro, is it me or is like the whole election is just like I don't know. It was like fun when it was happening because it was like it seemed like everyone was coming along, like everyone was like getting motivated behind a purpose, behind a cause, but like I'm already tired of this shit, man. Like Twitter is just it's either like, oh yeah, the America's gonna be perfect after this, or people are like freaking out. It's so weird to me. Full of Squid Games. I don't know what that means. Bro, it's like I've heard enough about fucking Trump for the next fucking 20 years. I played this game. I didn't watch Squid Games. Should I? Is it good? I started watching with my girlfriend, but I just like I couldn't get into it. I don't know. I don't like when I'm watching TV, I already read enough. I don't want to have to read subtitles. Like I'm watching TV, I kind of want to just relax. I don't want to like have that part of my brain going. So it's I think she wanted me to watch it with subtitles, and I just couldn't do it. It's very good. I mean, I'll give it a try at some point. How long am I going for? 50 minutes. I'm gonna stream again tomorrow. Like no one's joining, so it's like not saying that like if people were here. I'm tired and like I'll do much better tomorrow. I'll plan it much better tomorrow because I kind of threw it on it. It's also a Friday night, so I wasn't even thinking that people were probably out. so it's not a big deal. But do you like this kind of stream, Eddie? Do you like it more this way, or would you rather it be just people going, "Wow, you look like Mr. Clean"? That shit's so fucking boring. Like it gets a lot of views, it gets a lot of engagement, but like it's not fucking worth it. It really isn't. Like I didn't do it for a few days, like the vertical live streams, and I'm like, wow, my life is so much better. It's just so annoying. I think like this is long term more beneficial. You know what I mean? Like obviously I get more exposure if I do the vertical streams. Obviously, it's gonna get more views, it's gonna get more watch time, but I don't I don't care about that much. I'd rather just have fun. The moment this stops becoming fun is the moment I stop doing it. The moment it starts to become a chore is the moment that I'm out. And I think that's really the only way to do it. Like if I do this uninspired, it's gonna be so not entertaining. It's not gonna be fun to watch. I mean, I don't even know if it's fun to watch right now. Look at the viewers. You gotta poke fun at yourself, right? But yeah, I'll stream again at some point tomorrow. You think I should update people? Like, do you think I should like schedule it way in advance? Do you think that would be better? Because I don't know how this works. Truly, I don't. Like, the funniest thing about YouTube, don't get me wrong, there are some helpful tips, but like, there's an entire industry on YouTube of how to go viral on YouTube. And it's like, a lot of it is the same kind of stuff. A lot of it is like maybe a 0.1% improvement here, 1.1% improvement there. And it's just like, it's not worth the amount of time for me to invest into that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, should I be creative? Should I be passionate? Should I have fun with this? Or should I work on the thumbnail? Should I, you know, do the hashtag? Like, it's just in my eyes, any sort of expenditure into that stuff, especially when I don't want to do it, is just wasting my creativity. I only have so much creativity in a day. I only have so much of me just flowing like this and having fun. I just don't want to eat into that. Maybe I should like hire an editor or something like that. But again, these are things that you can deal with at a later date. But again, it's like a work in progress. I mean, just get a little bit better every day. It's like that's yeah. I think I'm gonna end this now. Thanks for hanging out, Eddie. Thanks for having fun. Um, that's really all I got to say. But let's do them again tomorrow. And I think the more consistent I get with this, the more people are just gonna join. A lot of the people that are normally here just they must have just been busy. So yeah, with that said, peace out, man. Hope you have a good night and hope everything's cool with you. I'll update somewhere tomorrow about the stream. And I'll do a thumbnail. I'll do it like I'll really put time and effort into this instead of just turning it on. Thank you so much. I'll see you later, man. Good night.